All right, so today we're going to dive deep into discipline.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think everyone wants to be more disciplined.
Yeah.
But it can be really tough, right?
Definitely.
Especially when you think about, all the things you have to do to, actually make it happen.
For sure.
So we're going to look at this video for simple habits for discipline
Mm-hmm.
without destroying yourself, which I think is a very good sort of caveat there, because a lot of people, when they think about discipline, they think about waking up at 4 a.m. and going on these crazy runs and, just like,
Totally.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Self-flagellation.
It can be very extreme.
Yeah. So this video is by Dristhi Sharma.
Okay.
And it's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to dive into this.
Right.
And see if we can extract some useful tips for you guys.
Sound good.
So the first habit that Sharma talks about is meditation.
Yeah.
And, meditation is something that we hear about a lot.
Right.
And I think a lot of people sort of roll their eyes at it.
Yeah. I could see that.
Because it's like, okay, meditate, sure, whatever.
It's almost become cliche at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
But Sharma actually connects it directly to discipline by emphasizing thought control.
Interesting.
And she quotes the Bhagavad Gita as saying, for him who has controlled his mind, the mind is the best friend.
Right.
But for one who has not done so, their mind will be their greatest enemy.
That's a powerful statement.
Right.
Yeah, like that's...
I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah, and you think about it, like how many times have you, been in a situation where, you're trying to be disciplined, but then your mind is like, oh, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Just have this done it or whatever.
I mean, I know I have.
Yeah.
So controlling our minds is like the key.
It seems like it,
to discipline.
Yeah.
But how do you do that?
Right.
Like, how do you actually control your mind?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. It's easier said than done.
It really is.
And Sharma, acknowledges this. And she says that, our minds are like jumping monkeys.
Okay.
They're constantly fluting from one thought to the next.
Yeah.
And
I like that analogy.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Yeah.
And she says that meditation is like giving that monkey a banana.
Oh, okay.
Like something to focus on.
Okay.
Something to calm down.
So it's about finding that focus point.
Right.
Yeah.
And specifically, she talks about guided meditation. Mm-hmm. And I think guided meditation is a lot easier for people who are just starting out. Yeah. Because it gives you that
makes sense.
Something to follow.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like when to meditate, Sharma recommends doing it in the mornings or evenings.
Right.
And she says that our brain waves are most active at those times. So it's a good time to sort of like get in there and train your mind.
Train that monkey.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And she also emphasizes that you don't have to jump into like hour-long sessions right away.
No, that's intimidating.
Yeah. Like start with 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then, gradually increase the duration.
Would you get more comfortable?
Right.
Okay.
And that's something that, I think is really important to remember because it's easy to get overwhelmed with all these things. So, starting small is key.
Definitely.
All right. So we've talked about meditation. And, meditation is a great way to sort of like start your day.
Right.
And Sharma's next habit is all about morning routines.
Right.
And she actually quotes Tim Ferriss.
Oh, interesting.
Who says if you win your mornings, win your day.
I've heard that quote.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good quote.
Yeah, I like it.
And, I think there's a lot of truth to that.
There is.
Okay. Because if you can start your day off.
Right.
On the right foot, you're much more likely to have a productive day.
Yeah.
And Sharma actually got this idea from another creator, Ankur Warikoo, who talks about waking up early to do the things that you love.
Interesting.
Or you have to start doing the things that you have to do.
Okay.
So like, for me, that would be like waking up early and recording a podcast or, reading a book or whatever.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
Sharma also talks about how, in modern life, we're constantly feeling rushed.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying to catch up.
Yeah.
And
totally. It's go, go, go.
Yeah, and a morning routine can help to counteract that.
I see.
Because it gives you that time to sort of like center yourself before the day starts.
That makes sense.
So Sharma gives a few suggestions for morning routines.
Yeah.
And she says that it's important to, find what works for you.
Right.
But she suggests things like waking up at the same time every day.
Okay.
Even on weekends.
Ooh, even on weekends.
Yeah. Obviously, like, this is not something that, everyone's going to be able to do.
Right.
It's a good goal.
It's aspirational.
Right.
Yeah.
She also suggests things like meditation or prayer, skincare, stretching, or yoga, kneading, and even creating a to-do list.
Interesting.
Or writing in a morning journal.
Okay.
And so, it's really just about finding what works for you. And, even if you just pick one of those things and, start doing it every day, that's
a good start.
That's a great start.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about meditation.
Right.
We've talked about morning routines.
Yeah.
But what about time management? Because, time management is... like, it's essential.
It's essential for discipline.
Yeah.
And Sharma's next habit is all about that.
Right.
And she starts by saying that we all get 24 hours in a day.
Right.
We do.
But it's not about how much time you have. It's about how you use it.
Yeah, it's about using it wisely.
Right. And she emphasizes the importance of understanding your energy levels.
Interesting.
And she says that, before you can effectively manage your time, you need to understand when you have the most energy.
Makes sense.
And when you don't.
Right.
And she uses this analogy of a movie theater.
Oh, interesting.
So she says when you go to a movie theater, you go in it prepared.
You got your popcorn.
Yeah, you got your popcorn.
You need a drink.
You got your drink. You turn off your phone.
Right.
And you're focused.
You're there to watch the movie.
Yeah. And she says that we should approach our work with the same mindset.
Yeah.
So, minimizing interruptions, setting boundaries, and, really just creating that space for focus.
Yeah.
And I think, in the age of technology, this is really hard.
It is.
Because we're constantly bombarded with distractions.
Yeah, notifications and emails.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we combat that?
Right. And actually, Sharma has a whole other video.
Oh, interesting.
On phone addiction.
Okay.
Which we might have to dive into at some point.
Maybe another deep dive.
Yeah. But in terms of time management, she also talks about the importance of prioritizing tasks.
Right.
And she says that it's not just about checking things off a list. It's about making sure that the things you're doing are actually aligned with your goals.
That makes sense.
So, if your goal is to write a book, but you're spending all your time, watching TV, that's not helping you achieve your goal.
Definitely not.
Right. So it's about really being intentional with your time.
About making those choices.
Right. And making sure that you're spending your time on things that matter to you. Okay. So we've talked about meditation. We've talked about morning routines. We've talked about time management. Yeah. And Sharma's fourth habit is continuous learning.
Interesting.
And, I think when we're kids, we're naturally curious.
We are.
Right?
Like, we want to learn.
We want to
explore.
We want to explore. Everything is new and exciting.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the way, we lose that.
We do.
Right. We get bogged down in responsibilities and, just the
daily grind.
The daily grind of life.
Yeah.
And we start to think that learning is something that you do in school.
Right.
And then you're done.
Like it has an endpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Sharma emphasizes that learning is a lifelong journey.
Okay.
And that it's crucial for maintaining discipline.
Interesting.
Achieving our goals.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because if we're not learning, we're not growing.
We're stagnant.
Right. Yeah. And if we're not growing,
We're not moving forward.
We're not moving forward. So how do we become continuous learners?
Right.
Well, Sharma gives a few suggestions.
Okay.
And she says that we should take on challenges.
Okay.
And keep promises to ourselves.
Interesting.
And she also says that we should strive to improve constantly.
Constantly.
And she says that we should shed the ego.
Right.
And be open to learning.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But important.
But important.
Yeah.
She also says that we should seek feedback from others.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think all of those things are really important.
Yeah.
Because they help us to
grow.
To learn.
To learn.
And to become.
Right, to stay disciplined.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about, like, the actual habits, you know, the morning routines, right management, all that. But I want to kind of like zoom out a little bit and talk about the relationship between discipline and creativity.
Interesting.
Because I feel like those two things are often seen as being at odds with each other. You know, like people think that if you're disciplined, you're not creative.
Right.
And if you're creative, you're not disciplined.
I could see that.
But I actually think that they can be very complementary.
Okay. I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yeah. So I think that discipline can actually enhance creativity.
Yeah.
Because it provides structure and boundaries and consistency, which can actually help to free up your creative energy.
Interesting. So it's like discipline provides the framework.
Right.
And then creativity can kind of flourish within that.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's this article by James Clear called The Discipline of Creativity.
Okay.
And he talks about how a lot of people misunderstand the creative process. We think that you just have to wait for inspiration to strike.
Like it's this magical thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Clear says that creativity is often a result of consistent effort.
Okay.
Not just like a flash of brilliance.
Yeah, you don't just sit down and suddenly you're a genius.
Right. You have to actually put in the work.
Put in the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he talks about building a creative rhythm.
Interesting. What does that mean?
So it's basically like showing up consistently, even when you don't feel inspired.
So even if you don't feel like it, you just do it anyway.
Just make yourself do it.
Right.
And he suggests scheduling dedicated time for creative work.
So like putting it in your calendar.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that way it's like you're signaling to your brain that this is important.
Yeah. It's not just something you do when you feel like it.
Right.
Okay.
But what about those times when you're just like staring at a blank page or a blank canvas?
Yeah.
And nothing's coming.
Yeah. We've all been there.
What do you do then?
Yeah. Any advice from James Clear on that?
Well, he has this great idea called a spark file.
A spark file? What is that?
So it's basically like a collection of ideas, quotes, images, anything that inspires you.
And so like a little treasure chest of inspiration.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can keep it like in a physical notebook or a digital folder or even like a Pinterest board.
Oh, interesting.
And then when you're feeling stuck, you can just go to your spark file and browse through it.
And hopefully get those creative juices flowing.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, it's really just about capturing those moments of inspiration throughout the day and then having them readily available.
Makes sense.
When you need them.
Yeah.
And Clear also talks about the importance of environment.
Okay.
So creating a dedicated workspace, even if it's just like a corner of your living room, can help to signal to your brain that it's time.
To get to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
To get creative.
Right.
Okay,
so we've talked about scheduling time.
Yeah.
We've talked about the spark file. We've talked about environment.
Yeah.
Any other tips from James Clear?
Yeah, he has one more that I think is really interesting.
Okay, what is it?
It's called embracing constraints.
Embracing constraints.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that would be good for creativity.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive.
It does.
But he says that sometimes having too much freedom can actually be paralyzing.
Okay. I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by setting limits for yourself, whether it's like a time limit or a word count or a specific set of materials, you can actually force yourself to be more creative.
Interesting. So it's like limitations can actually spark innovation.
Exactly. So, it's about finding that sweet spot between structure and freedom.
Right.
And I think discipline is really about that. About finding that balance.
Okay.
And, speaking of things that can hinder creativity and discipline.
Yeah.
Procrastination.
Procrastination.
I know. Yeah. It's the worst.
It really is.
But it's something that we all struggle with.
We all do.
Right. So there's this article in Psychology Today
called The Psychology of Procrastination and How to Beat It.
Oh, interesting.
And it talks about how procrastination is often a way of avoiding negative emotions.
Okay. That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. Like what kind of emotions?
Like fear, anxiety, self-doubt.
Okay.
So we procrastinate.
Right.
Because we're afraid of the potential negative consequences.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
failing.
Yeah. Or disappointing ourselves.
Right. Or others. Or even succeeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, the article suggests a few things.
All right.
One is to break down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
That's a classic tip.
Yeah.
Yeah. That way, you're not feeling overwhelmed.
It's less intimidating.
Right. Yeah, and you're also more likely to actually start.
To take action.
Yeah. And the article also emphasizes the importance of self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Right.
Okay.
So, we all procrastinate sometimes, and it's important to be kind to ourselves rather than beating ourselves up.
Yeah, don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this ties back to what Sharma was saying about self-awareness. It's about understanding ourselves, our strengths, our weaknesses, our motivations, our fears, and then using that knowledge
to create systems and strategies that support our goals.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we've talked about creativity. We've talked about procrastination.
Right.
Where do we go from here?
Well, I think the next step is to talk about how to actually make these changes stick.
Right.
It's one thing to understand the concepts, but it's another thing to actually
to put them into practice.
Yeah. Okay. So we've connected discipline and creativity and tackled procrastination, but now I'm thinking about making those changes last.
Exactly.
Like, how do we move past just, being motivated for a hot minute, and actually integrate these things into our lives?
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it?
So for that, I think Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Is super relevant here.
Definitely.
So what does Duhigg say about actually building habits?
Well, he breaks down habits into this loop with 3 parts.
Right.
There's the cue, the routine, and the reward.
So if my cue is coming home after a crazy day, my routine is grabbing a bag of chips and watching TV.
Right.
And then my reward is, I don't know, feeling relaxed.
That's exactly. Yeah, that's the loop in action.
So then how do we use this loop to actually change our habit?
Well, the cool thing is once you know the loop, you can kind of hack it.
Oh, okay.
So you figure out your cues, you figure out your rewards, and then you start experimenting with different routines to see what works.
So instead of chips and TV after work, I could try,
I don't know, going for a run.
Going for a walk, reading a book.
Yeah.
Anything, really.
And then the reward would be feeling energized.
Yeah, feeling accomplished.
Feeling proud of yourself.
And it doesn't always have to be something physical or tangible.
No, not at all. It can be, like you said, that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of calm, just feeling good.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's we're kind of rewiring those connections in our brains.
Exactly.
Right.
It's all about finding what works for you.
So instead of forcing ourselves to do something we hate, we can figure out ways to actually enjoy the process.
Exactly.
Which I think is a huge part of discipline.
It is.
Because if you don't enjoy it,
you're
not going to stick with it.
I'm going to give up.
Right. So then how do we actually start small?
Well, Duhigg says to pick one habit.
Okay.
Just one.
All right.
And break it down into tiny steps.
So, like, if I want to start meditating, I don't have to meditate for an hour every day.
No, not at all.
Right.
Start with 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Maybe even 2 minutes.
And then just, like, slowly build up.
Exactly.
And celebrate those small wins along the way.
Yes, that's so important.
This has been such a great deep dive.
It really has.
We've talked about meditation, morning routines, time management, continuous learning.
Creativity, procrastination, habits.
So many things. It's all connected.
It is. Yeah. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that discipline isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about being consistent.
And showing up for yourself. Even when it's hard.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for this deep dive.
That was great.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, you have the power to shape your habits and achieve your goals.
You do.
So what's one small step you can take today to start building a more disciplined and fulfilling life?
I'd love to know.
Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah.
And until next time, happy diving.